What's up, YouTube, and what's up, Facebook? So, we're going to talk about Eugenio Derbez today, who did an interview on Instagram with Dr. Fauci, and it was incredible. And I'm trying something different today. I know if you guys have been following me, I've been complaining about having two different screens to look at. I used to have the cell phone down here, and then I'd have the YouTube up there, and I felt weird about the eye contact. It just seemed a little weird. So I fixed the problem. I put the phone up here. I've got the YouTube up here. Hopefully that improves the eye contact, and we'll see. And maybe eventually I'll try to get it right next to each other. This is as close as I can get. And now on Facebook, you can't see this on YouTube, but I'm like level. Before I'm looking down. Hopefully this improves the show. I hope so, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, that's the show for today. And if you guys don't know who Eugenio Derbez is or what he looks like, I printed it out. Listen, I'm not trying to act like I'm the most technological person. I know you're impressed. I get it. Okay, let's calm down. But that's him right there, and that's Dr. Anthony Fauci. So I'm not trying to brag. Let me just make sure I move that now because I don't want to slip on it like a banana peel on Mario Kart. But that's what the story is today. We'll wait a minute or two for everyone to get in. Thank you for being here. And I want to say two things before I start. The first one is if you don't, actually maybe three things, I lied. If you don't follow me on Telegram, t.me/DreamRareChat, I'm going to post the whole interview later tonight. I'm going to post the link. So if you haven't seen it, I'll show you his Instagram, the full link. Second thing I want to say is thank you to everybody on patreon.com/raretalk. I answer all messages there. So I'll do that later this week. I did it last week. On Facebook, I have Facebook supporters. We will do a Facebook supporter only live stream this month. I have not forgotten. I've just been busy. So we'll do that. And before we start, I did want to say, I was talking on Instagram earlier today, and there's something some people consider concern trolling, but it's basically like, say I say something you don't want to hear. Like I question Trump, or you're liberal, I question the liberals, whatever. And instead of like just being like anomaly, I don't like you, I don't agree, I'm going to unfollow you. I don't really care. But it's like anomaly, I'm concerned for you. I feel like you're not sleeping, and it's like this like passive aggressive way to pretend like you're concerned for my health when you're really not. You just don't want to hear what I have to say. It's really annoying. But I do want to compliment somebody, because someone who actually was concerned for my health, some guy, I had a question and answer on Instagram, and he said, "Hey, Anomaly, I think you have a neck problem." He was like, I've seen the way you stand or whatever. And he's like, "I think you have this neck problem." So I looked into it, and I don't know that I do or don't, but I've been sleeping different. I tried to been propping my neck up. I feel great. My back and my neck feel better than they felt in a long, long time. So I just want to show the difference between someone who actually is concerned with my health and somebody who pretends. Like that guy, whoever that was, like just that comment alone, like everybody's like, "Anomaly, are you single?" This like asking questions. And it was his question that really had the most impact on me. I was like, wow. Thank you. Like, I'm not this crazy egomaniac who doesn't want to be corrected or something. Just say something that makes sense. Be like, "I don't agree with you because of this," or "I'm concerned with your health because of this." Thank you so much to the guy who said something about my neck. I actually learned something. I feel great. And to people who are like, I say something about like Operation Warp Speed, and they're like, "Anomaly, I'm really concerned with your health. I think you don't sleep enough." I'm like, do you really think I don't sleep enough, or are you just saying that? So thank you to that guy. And that's the difference between fake being concerned for me and actually literally caring. So anyway, first story of the day. Let me get technological. Eugenio Derbez, check right there. Dr. Anthony Fauci, boo, right there. They set this guy up with an interview, and I'm going to show you the whole thing and show you clips today, and then I'll show you the whole thing later. But I'm guessing that they thought that this guy, Eugenio Derbez, who's a Mexican actor, producer, he's a legend, I've heard, in the Hispanic world. I'm sure in the English-speaking world too, but if you look at his Instagram, all Spanish-speaking comments, like he's got a huge influence on the Hispanic community. I'm guessing they set him up with this interview thinking like, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He'll just convince a lot of Hispanics to just agree with us. And this guy knew everything that I talk about, literally everything. He talked about liability. He talked about it not being FDA approved. He questioned Fauci and grilled him when Fauci misled or didn't explain it. And I was blown away. I was like, wow, he did a better job than Fox News. He did a better job than CNN. He did a better job than any mainstream journalist I've seen yet. So let's play the first part of it. And I'm also going to get into some video clips of the guy who invented the PCR test, Carrie Mullis, and share that with you guys. because he says some interesting stuff and they fact check it and act like it never happened, but it did happen. And I have the video proof. So fact checkers, leave me alone. You guys suck at your job. No offense, but whatever. They know it. I know it. We all know it. So this is Eugenio Derbez grilling Fauci. I can't have the screen for you. If you want, I could just hold this up and make you feel good about it, but I don't think you need that. So let's just listen to him grill Fauci on, is it FDA approved? And Fauci says, yes, it is FDA approved. And then he says it went through emergency authorization. And he didn't stop there. Eugenio was like, so it's not FDA approved. It's not FDA approved. It's emergency authorized. There's a difference, obviously. And Fauci tries to like weasel his way through words and convince you that it is. What a little sneaky man that is, but God bless him.
I stop. Yes. Dr. Fauci. So first question. Which of the COVID-19 vaccines have been officially approved by the FDA?
3 of them. One from Moderna, which is the mRNA vaccine.
Hold on, we're just gonna pause that real quick because Fauci tells a lie and he then explains himself. But he says, which of them have been officially approved by the FDA? And Fauci says 3 of them. Fact check, liar, Dr. Liar. How is this guy not fact check? Because the fact checkers don't actually fact check everything. They just fact check things that go in their political and medical advantage, and things that don't. They just, make excuses for, well, fact check, it's kind of a mixture. I mean, it's a mixture because I used to just say it's a pretty false trend. That's what they do when they want to. And then they just shut everything else down. But anyway, he just lies and then tries to spin it around. We'll run it back. I'm sorry. I got a little ahead of myself. Apologize.
So first question, which of the COVID-19 vaccines have been officially approved by the FDA?
3 of them. One from Moderna, which is the mRNA vaccine.
Wrong.
One from Pfizer, which is another mRNA vaccine. And the other one is from J&J, Johnson & Johnson, which is a little bit different. It gives the same kind of response, but it's a little bit different. So there are 3 vaccines that have gotten emergency use authorization from the FDA so far. There are a couple of others that are still being tested to determine if they're safe and effective. But the 3 that I just mentioned have been shown in very large clinical trials involving anywhere from 30,000 to 44,000 people per trial, was shown to be not only very efficacious, but quite safe.
Okay, so I asked if it was approved by the FDA.
So then he says, I asked if it was approved by the FDA. Most journalists would have just let him off the hook. On Fox or CNN, they would have just said, okay, he said it was, but it was, he said, no. I asked if it was I asked if it was FDA approved. He actually holds Fauci accountable. This guy's great. He's watching some good people because he knows his stuff. I love it. And that's what they don't want you to know your stuff. If you know your stuff, listen to what they say.
By the FDA. But I asked if it was approved by the FDA. But I think that it's a different thing than an emergency use authorization than an approval. So what is the difference between an emergency use authorization and an official approval by the FDA?
Yes, that's a very good question. So an emergency use authorization is based on the criteria if the benefit clearly outweighs the risk and that you get a good degree of efficacy and safety. The full licensure is when you follow it for a longer period of time and you get more information and data. I have no doubt, given how very, very efficacious all 3 of these are, that they will ultimately get the full authorization in the sense of what's called a biological license approval. But an emergency use authorization is really quite of an important step in the direction of getting the official approval. So let me give you an example of how much.
This guy is such a weasel. It's insane. So the Eugenio Derbez, people are asking where you can get the full interview, every single part, not taken out of context. Eugenio Derbez, Eugenio Derbez, Derbez on Instagram. They did an Instagram live where it's vertical. And, he just says, well, tried to convince people it was FDA approved when it's literally not, which was such a sneaky move by the little sneaky man. And then, he says, well, it's a big step to getting it. we're not asking you what step. We're asking you, is it FDA approved? It's not. And he doesn't want to say it's not, because if he says it's not, people will know it's not. And if people know it's not, people know something. And if people know something, they can defend themselves and educate themselves. And if people are educated, then that might be a problem for the little guy. And in general, I'm just going to read, this is right off the FDA website. It says that the FDA may authorize unapproved medical products or unapproved use of approved medical products. I'm sorry, I got to find the right part. It says, when certain criteria are met, including that there are no adequate, approved, or available alternatives. So in order to authorize these, straight off the FDA website, there can't be approved alternatives. Why do you think that Trump stopped talking about the drug that must not be named? I'm not a doctor. I never talked about it because I don't know about it. I wasn't just going to jump on the Trump bandwagon and talk about something I have no idea about. But in general, if you remember, he was talking about a certain drug, saying it works, it works, it works. And then he shut his mouth and just started talking about Moderna. Why do you think, and I don't know this for sure, but my best guess, why do you think Trump stopped talking about the other drug and started talking about Moderna? Because according to the emergency use authorization of all of these vaccines that are not FDA approved, regardless of what Fauci or Jen Psaki says, they want to lie to you and mislead you. If there was a use, an adequate or approved alternative, then they can't give them an emergency use authorization. So in order to get all of these vaccines, which they already spent billions of dollars on, you think Bill Gates and the government, including, what Trump signed off, you think that they're just going to let billions of dollars? I mean, they do waste trillions of dollars, but in general, if they want a product, they're going to get a product. So that was really bad when Trump did that, because if someone could prove that those did work, I don't know that they could have got emergency authorization. So that's why all of these studies came out. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. It's so bad. It's so bad. I mean, yeah, we've only been using them for 70 years, but all of a sudden it's so horrible and it's so bad. Interesting, isn't it? Isn't it also interesting when I get questioned from the left and the right, and there's a lot of NPCs on both sides, they say, "Oh, you're an anti-vaxxer." It's like, no, I'm not. I don't even know what that means. Are you anti-juice? Hey, I have this juice. It's emergency authorized juice. I have this juice. You want this juice? You got to take this juice. If you don't drink this juice, you can't get into my store. You got to drink the juice. Are you an anti-juicer if you say no? No, you're a common sense, normal person. That's what I am. I'm not anti-vaxxer. I don't want to be forced an emergency authorized product into my body without my permission. I want to learn about it. And the more I learn about it, the little less they make sense. So it's like, it doesn't make you anti-juicer to deny a juice in the same way. It doesn't make you anti-vaccine to know your facts about what they're doing in this situation. And in general, even before I was political, even before I was conservative leaning, even before I knew anything about the Republicans or the Democrats, I always knew about the pharmacy industry. I always saw since I was a kid that pills were overprescribed because I grew up in the United States of America, and I could see that people were just jacked up on pharmacy pills all the time. And I knew, and now I know, if you look at who was the biggest lobbyist in Washington in 2020, Google it. I believe, from what I found, it was the pharmacy industry. And if most years they're not the biggest lobbyist, they're one of the biggest lobbyists. So they're one of the biggest lobbyists in Washington. They're one of the biggest advertisers on television. And if you Google how much they pay doctors to influence doctors, it's quite a heck of a lot. So I don't want to be mean, but these moron conservatives who act like they're saving your freedom, but don't know any of this stuff I just told you and try to shut me down like I'm some sort of quack when I could blow them out of the water in a debate. That's why they won't debate me, because I'll crush them. And then these left wingers that are like, I'm anti-corporation because I follow AOC. You're anti-corporation, but AOC is telling you not to question one of the most powerful corporations ever. You guys question the NRA's lobbying power, but you never thought to question somebody who makes the NRA look like a peanut. It's like a clown show. But this is what happens when you program people: orange man bad, orange man good, orange man hero, orange man enemy. Oh, and then they're all fighting, and Trump's like, I did Operation Warp Speed. I did the Operation Warp. That's not that special. Even if you agree with Operation Warp Speed, people are defending it in the Trump world like it's some sort of magical accomplishment. Like Trump is like Albert Hoffman or, like Watson and Crick, like, studying with Pfizer. Trump has nothing to do with this crap. He did exactly what Obama would have did. He did exactly what Hillary would have did. He did exactly what Biden would have did. He signed off on papers to give trillions of dollars in one of the biggest thefts of modern history, where you got pennies and all these companies and corporations and foreign countries got way more money than you got. He signed off on a paper that said, give, whatever it was, Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca, J&J, I don't remember, give them billions of dollars to do this program. That's all he did. He just signed a piece of paper. He's not a hero. He's not an icon. He did exactly what Obama would have done. He did exactly what Biden would have done. He did exactly what any puppet politician that he called out would have done. So it's like everybody thinks he's so great for it. It's like, because he signed the paper that Hillary Clinton would have signed. Oh, you think she wouldn't have signed Operation Warp Speed? It's a dream of the establishment to shut down society and fund the pharmacy industry. Are you joking me? The God Pill said, buy AMC and GME. It's almost too late and nothing else will retain value. Thank you for the super chat, but no, I'm not going to buy GameStop. I'm not going to buy AMC, and I'm not a financial advisor. But if anybody wants to, I would say high risk, high reward, because they're just going all over the place. It went from like 50 to 250, but whatever. Thanks for the super chat. But in general, that's not my advice. That's his. Let's go on to the Eugenio Derbez interview, because he starts asking Fauci about the liability. He knows all this stuff. And, I learned this from other people who are now getting censored on the internet, but Eugenio Derbez must have really, done his research. So let's play another one where he starts talking about he asks, can I sue the companies? Are they liable? Because they're not liable. So listen, this is Eugenio Derbez again. Once again, it's on his Instagram. I'll post it on my Telegram later today, and I'll post it on USA Products Only, but we're just going to listen to audio now, and I'll hold up my high-tech paper. I'll get it for you real quick here.
Okay, so but if the vaccines are safe and effective, why hasn't the FDA given any of them the full official approval and license?
See, that's actually a great question. Before the liability, it says, if they're so safe, why hasn't the FDA given them approval? So he said, are they approved? Fauci said yes. He said, no, they're not. That's different. Fauci gave an excuse and he said, okay, if they're so safe, why are they FDA approved? This guy's crushing it.
Okay, so but if the vaccines are safe and effective, why hasn't the FDA given any of them the full official approval and license?
Actually, Eugenio, that is a very good question.
It is a good question.
It isn't like they have any problem with it. It just takes logistically a long time to get the approval. So when this is such a good product that you want to get it to people as quickly as possible, because it's life-saving, you give it what's called an emergency use authorization. Not that there's anything less effective in it, it just takes a long time to get the full approval, and rather than deprive people of getting a life-saving vaccine before all of the I's get dotted and the T's get crossed, they give it an emergency use authorization based on a lot of solid data that it works.
What is the medical and legal responsibility of the companies that are making the vaccines? What happens if secondary effects are seen, let's say, in 5 or 10 years? Can I sue the manufacturer of the product if it hurts me, or if there's long-term effects?
What a brilliant! Isn't this guy crushing it? We love this guy, and I know a lot of Latinos on my Instagram. They were like, dude, this guy's a legend in the Hispanic world and Mexican world. Like, now he's a legend for humanity because he's just crushing it. He says, if something happens in a couple of years, do the vaccine manufacturers have any liability? They don't have any liability. Fact check, they don't have any liability. And Fauci goes on to say that it's impossible that you can have long-term side effects, like it doesn't exist at all. My question to him would be, well, then why don't they have liability? If they're so confident about it, why not be liable for it? Johnson & Johnson's in court right now for their baby powder. Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson both settled with the government for bribery. If they're so confident they have such a flawless track record, why aren't they liable? And how does he know? If this is, with the Pfizer and the Moderna, this is mRNA technology. I'm just curious, if it's so steadfast, they're 100% sure that there's nothing going to happen, then why wasn't this out 5-10 years ago? How come they just rolled it out within 8 months during COVID? It's not FDA approved, but now I'm supposed to act like this is like so flawless? I mean, maybe. I'm sure it is. I'm sure everybody will be fine, but he's such a weasel in the way he, first of all, pretty much lies and says, oh yeah, they're FDA approved, they're emergency authorized. And then Eugenio says, well, there's a difference between the two. And he's like, well, yeah, I mean, but they're safe. He's like, I'm not asking you if they're safe. I asked if they're FDA approved, and they're not. And he doesn't want to admit it. What a little weasel this guy is.
Is down the road.
There is a fund that allows the compensation for injury, but I have to tell you, Eugenio, that it's very, very, very unlikely that you're going to have an effect 5 or 10 years down the pike. The reason we say that is that we have decades of experience in the field of vaccinology, and virtually all of the effects, if they even occur, and they're very rare, occur within 15 to 45 days following the dose. Each of the companies had to wait 60 days before they were able to release it to be given to the people.
So first of all, sorry, I gotta go back to this Bill Gates interview, because Fauci just said, and listen, I only listen to the experts, folks, the Bill Gates, the Fauci, so don't take my word for it. Hold on one second. Let's listen to Bill Gates, because Fauci said, most side effects, if they happen, they're super rare. They'll happen within the first, whatever he said, like within the first couple of days or whatever. You heard him. We'll play it again, but I got to find this Bill Gates interview, because that's not actually at all true. That's not what the data shows. That's not what even Bill Gates admitted. So he said it's really rare. Let's hear how rare it is. Let's listen to Bill Gates on CBS. Not a conspiracy theory. This is mainstream television, folks, that they apparently were hoping people didn't see.
We looked. After the second dose, at least 80% of participants experienced a systemic side effect, ranging from severe chills to fevers. So, are these vaccines safe?
Well, the FDA, not being pressured, will look hard at that. The FDA is the gold standard of regulators, and their current guidance on this, if they stick with that, is very, very appropriate. And the side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things there. Moderna did have to go with a fairly high dose, and so to get the antibodies. Some of the other vaccines.
So he doesn't even deny it. He just says, well, Moderna had to go with the higher dose. She said in the trials, 80% of people had side effects. Moderna had to go with the higher dose. I mean, that's just part and parcel. And listen to what Fauci says. He says it's very, very rare. Is it very, very rare, or is it 80%? Because I already know 2 people who got it, and I know that they got severe chills for multiple days and had to miss work. So is it super rare that happened, or is it 80%? One of them's lying. I could tell you which one it is, but is Bill Gates lying when he concedes that in the trials that 80% of people had that? Or is Fauci lying his face off like he already lied, saying that it's very, very rare that it happens? And they have so much data, yet these new products are not approved, and the mRNA are newer technology. What a fraud this guy is.
And virtually all of the effects, if they even occur, and they're very rare, occur within 15 to 45 days following the dose.
They're very rare. Okay, let's go back to the Bill Gates. Let's go back to the Bill Gates one again.
Yes,
you know the data better than I do. But the data that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where it's just super painful. But yes, we need to make sure there's not severe side effects. The FDA,
All right, so we're gonna go back to the interview real quick. Let me just read this super chat. Someone said, all right, people are trying to push the AMC GMA thing with the super chat. Thank you. I don't know if you're trying to boost your own stock or you really think that, but I appreciate it. Let me just go to the EAU stuff, because a lot of it talks about the PREP, the PrEP Act, or whatever they passed last year. I want to just read from the CNBC article that I referenced in my last video. It says that where it says that you can't sue Pfizer and Moderna because you can't. They talked about in February, Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar invoked the Public Readiness and Emergency Preparedness Act The 2005 law empowers the HHS secretary to provide legal protection to companies making and distributing critical medical supplies. So they have no liability thanks to the PrEP Act, which HHS Secretary Alex Azar passed. You guys remember when Trump said he was going to drain the swamp and he was going to fight all these guys in Washington? Who is Alex Azar, the one that did that and helped protect them even further than they're already protected? He was the head of Eli Lilly for a few years, and Eli Lilly is one of the biggest pharmacy companies in the world. So Trump took one of the biggest pharmacy heads in the world, put him as the head of HHS, and then, they rolled out this whole thing, and Trump brags about how great he is for doing Operation Warp Speed. The only way to drain the swamp is to fill it up and, make excuses for all this stuff. I don't know. But anyway, let's go back to the interview real quick of Fauci, because then he starts to ask him about the liability stuff.
Who the governments around the world are taking the liability.
Each of the companies had to wait 60 days before they were able to release it to be given to the people, because the most of the bad effects, if they do occur, and I say it's
all right, I'm trying to find where he talks about liability. Eugenio says that the governments are liable, not the vaccine companies. It's partially true. I think the government has a fund that they'll pay out of, but as far as like actual liability beyond that, I'm not sure. But he tries to make the point where like these companies are not liable to Fauci, and he's right about that. But let's hear what Fauci says, the expert. Don't listen to me. Listen to the expert. Okay.
Governments around the world are taking the liability. Governments, but I'm talking about the manufacturer. If there's a problem, can I sue the people that made the vaccine, not the government, the people that made the vaccine? Because I've heard they are protected from liability.
They are very sensitive about hurting people, but you can sue anybody you want to sue. There's no guarantee, because it will be in a court that would decide whether or not you.
So Fauci says you could sue whoever you want to sue. I mean, I guess you could try to open a lawsuit about anything, but he knows the NCVIA and the PrEP Act and all these other stuff that they passed along with all the acts and emergency stuff this year. Fauci knows, because it's a fact that the vaccine companies cannot be held liable, and he eventually concedes that, but he tries to fool the audience into thinking that maybe you could sue. I don't know, just try to and see what happens. So, okay, I'll try tomorrow. Let's see.
Sue anybody you want to sue. There's no guarantee, because it will be in a court that would decide whether or not you get compensation. But we have not had any issues with that in any of the other vaccines.
But if I sue the manufacturer.
Yeah. Fauci said we haven't had any issues with that. I know somebody who had an issue. I'm not making something up. I know a girl who's liberal, pro-vaccine, still pro-vaccine. I'm just saying her arm doesn't move, literally. She can't move her arm up and down. She has a problem, and this is not made up. This is not something I'm hallucinating, or I know her literally. But don't worry, Fauci and the vaccine companies have no problem because they have no liability. So yeah, we haven't had a problem since Reagan passed the NCVIA. We don't see a problem. Yeah, because you don't have a problem. But let's continue.
Any issues with that in any of the other vaccines?
But if I sue the manufacturer who pays for that, for that is the government, not the company. That's right?
Right.
Okay, got it.
So he said, right, yeah, you're right. And then you should see his face. He's just like, he looks so nervous, Fauci, and so disappointed that he actually got a real interview. He probably thought this was a softball. I'm just going to talk to this Mexican actor and I'm going to convince all these Hispanics to just believe whatever I say. He asked legitimate questions, honest questions, and Fauci just shrivels up like a prune and has to eventually concede. And he looks really upset that he actually got questioned. He's probably going to his PR person like, why did you set me up with someone who's not a moron?
Right. So I've heard that even if healthy people have a very low risk of dying from COVID, they should still get the vaccine so they don't spread the virus to people who might be too old or too sick to get the vaccine. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. So an example, if you're a young, healthy person, so typically, the chances are that you get that. You're not going to get that.
Which fast
So
forward.
you have a personal responsibility and a societal responsibility to protect yourself from getting infected.
The vaccine lowers my symptoms, but it may not prevent me from being infected with SARS-CoV-2, which means there's a possibility that I can still spread the virus even after I receive the vaccine.
That's the reason why, that's the reason why we ask you to wear a mask after you've been vaccinated.
You still can get infected and you can still spread it. So,
So this guy's great, man. Eugenio crushed it. He's like, so even if I get it, I could still spread the virus. Fauci's like, right. That's why we ask you to wear a mask. He's like, I could still get the virus. Fauci said, right. So you have to get this. And I don't know if you guys want to hear the rest of it, but he keeps pushing him and saying, okay, I thought herd immunity worked like this. So if that happens, what's going on with that? I mean, get 2 shots of the vaccine. So you still have to wear a mask. Last year, they told us as soon as it's out, then we can go back to normal. They keep moving the goalposts and nobody notices. I'll probably stop it for there and let you guys watch the rest. I'll give you the links later. And now let's move over to Carrie Mullis, who invented the PCR test that they're now using. Every time people talk about this, they fact check. He never said that, fact check. I read a whole fact check recently on Google that totally lied, took it out of context, said something else he said and was like, he never said anything like that. And I'm going to prove them wrong now. But before I do that, this is the inventor of the PCR test who's not alive anymore. Him talking about what he thinks of Anthony Fauci. This was years ago, probably during the AIDS epidemic. But listen to what he thinks, the guy who invented the PCR test that they're now using by the millions to tell people whether they have COVID-19 or not. And then after this, we'll listen to him talk about the PCR test that he invented and how he doesn't believe it should be used to tell people if they're sick or not. That's not a conspiracy theory. This doesn't need to be fact checked. I'm just saying that he said it because he did say it, and I'm going to play the video of it. So I don't want to be fact checked by these morons who work for like USA Today and get some sort of authoritarian power to silence people like me. It's like, let's have a debate. You know, Nancy or whatever her name is from USA Today. Like, who gives you the power to fact check what I say when I'm speaking the truth and you're a little dweeb liar who works for a big corporation that's trying to silence Nobel Prize winning scientists? I'm so tired of these people. But anyway, let's listen to Carrie Mullis on Anthony Fauci. It's fantastic.
What is it? What is it?
It's a little more quiet, so just give me a thumbs up if you could hear it. This is as loud. Give me a thumbs up if you guys could hear it on Facebook and YouTube because I can only turn it so loud.
What is it? What is it about humanity that wants to go to all the details and stuff and listen? You know, these guys like Fauci get up there and start talking, and he doesn't know anything really about anything. And I'd say that to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He doesn't understand electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine, and he should not be in a position like he's in. Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on the bottom. You know, those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smugly, like Tony Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people who pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
All right, so I moved the microphone closer for YouTube. He said Fauci doesn't mind going in front of the camera and lying in front of everybody because they don't know the difference. I'm going to keep playing it, but this is the inventor of the PCR test, and they're trying to use fact checkers like authoritarian commies to censor this information. I know 3 Nobel Prize winners, the HIV discoverer, Carrie Mullis, and also, you know, Watson and Crick, that they have tried to discredit 3 of actual science accomplishments, and they won't let them speak anymore. They're trying to cover up information that they think when they're the real thinkers, not people like Fauci who are just government shills and big pharma, you know, heads. The real inventors. This is crazy. And I don't know why. I'm grateful, I guess, because it's been good for business, I guess, but I would much rather make less money and less reach if I could have more people, especially on the right wing and the left wing, speak about this stuff. But unfortunately, everybody's like running in circles around the same 3, you know, political talking points, and nobody's pointing this stuff out. Everybody's like, well, Trump's the China virus. You're not fighting the China virus if you're importing all these Chinese products, including Chinese pharmacy products. You're testing using the PCR test to test asymptomatic cases, and China's not even doing that. So Trump says China virus, everyone says China virus, but you're not beating China if you don't get to the core of what's going on. But let's continue to listen to Carrie.
Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people who pay his salary and lie directly into the camera. You can't expect the sheep to really respect the best and brightest. They don't know the difference, really. I mean, I like humans. Don't get me wrong, but basically, the vast majority of them do not possess the ability to judge who is and who isn't a really good scientist. I mean, that's a problem. That's a main problem actually with science, I'd say, in this century, because science is being judged by people. Funding is being done by people who don't understand it. Okay, who do we trust? Fauci. Fauci didn't know enough to, if Fauci wants to get on television with somebody who knows a little bit about this stuff and debate him, he could easily do it because he's been asked. I mean, I've had a lot of people, president of the University of South Carolina, ask Fauci if he'd come down there and debate me on the stage in front of the student body, because I wanted somebody who was from the other side to come down there and balance mine, because I felt like, well, these guys can listen to me.
So he said, I tried to debate Fauci. This is, years ago, and Fauci never wanted to debate. And you see in the Eugenio interview, Fauci is not happy about being questioned. He's not happy with actually having a competent opponent. Honestly, Eugenio did a better job than anybody in media. He knew his facts, he stood his ground, and he didn't let Fauci weasel his way out and lie about things like FDA approval and liability. He held him accountable, and Fauci was not pumped. He was really upset because he knows that tens of millions of Hispanics are going to see this, and now tens of millions of non-Hispanics are going to see this, and they're going to wonder, man, that was not impressive. Like when I saw Bill Gates on CBS, I'm like, that was not impressive. That was not, I have eyes and a mind. That I wasn't blown away by his expertise. And especially people like Bill Gates, he lies about things like Elon Musk's trucks. He's like, oh, that's not even possible. And like Elon Musk is like, what are you talking about, dude? I literally did that. It's not like the space stuff that's hard to like quantify. It's like, he's talking about like literal cars and trucks that Elon Musk has. Like, oh, we can't do trucks like that. And Elon's like, yeah, you can. Like, why is Bill Gates lying about me? It's like the dude is not this like scientific wizard. He's never mind. So next thing I want to show is this is Carrie Mullis talking about his PCR test. And this is one of the most fact check things I've seen. Fact check. I'm not saying anything. I didn't invite the PCR to invent the PCR test. I don't have any standing here, but this guy, he deserves his voice to be heard because he invented the test that they're using. And he specifically says, it doesn't tell you when you're sick. And I've quoted him on it a few times, but let me just play the clip. This is Carrie Mullis again. Hopefully it's a little louder talking about the PCR test.
If they could find this virus in you at all, and with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else. Right?
I'm gonna run that back. He says, it could find, if used properly, the PCR test could find almost anything in you. He says it reminds you of the Buddhist notion that everything's inside of you, because when you zoom in, it kind of is. That's what he says. I'll play it again because it's a profound statement that you'll never hear on the news.
You can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful. It is. There's very little.
Did you hear what he just said, guys? You won't hear Scott Adams talk about this. No offense. I like Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, but he acts like this big intellectual. The guy, no offense, does not know what he's talking about with lockdowns, does not know what he's talking about with data, was wrong about Sweden. Literally, his blind spot for COVID is so big you could park 20 Elon Musk Cybertrucks in it. But it's like, no one talks about this stuff. How are you going to solve this crisis when you can't even get to the basic point of what's going on with testing, what's going on with vaccines, what's going on with the liability, what's going on with the funding? how are you going to stop big government when you're giving them trillions of dollars and the power to do this, even if it's the power without being unchecked or questioned? Who are these conservative leaders? I'm not trying to pick on Scott Adams, but it's like he acts like he's balanced, and it's like his like COVID analysis is like idiotic. And same with a lot of these like Trump supporters. No offense, but it's like they're just saying basic stuff. Like, this is why we're still locked down. This is why the country still isn't. It's never going to open until enough people realize what's going on. But I'll play it back. He said, it doesn't mean anything. You have a lot inside you, but the more you zoom in, basically, it's like, it's not. He's like, if people misuse this, which is what he's saying, and they say fact check true. No, let me just play his whole clip.
You can find almost anything.
You can find almost anything.
Anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful. It is. There's very little of what they call HIV, and what's been brought out here by Philpott and Isai already. The measurement for it is not exact at all. It's not as good as our measurement for things like apples. An apple is an apple. You know, you can get something that's kind of like, if you got enough things that look kind of like an apple and you stick them all together, you might think it's an apple. But and HIV is like that. Those tests are all based on things that are invisible, and the results are inferred in a sense. PCR is separate from that. It's just a process that's used to make a whole lot of something out of something. That's what
also,
it is. It's not. It doesn't tell you that you're sick, and it doesn't tell you that the thing you ended up with really was going to hurt you or anything like that.
He literally said, here, I'm just going to move this. Hopefully I don't unplug it. He literally said it doesn't tell you if you're sick. That's the inventor of the PCR test that Trump doled out millions of dollars and bragged about what a hero he was for Operation Warp Speed and mass putting PCR tests all over the country. That's the inventor saying it doesn't tell you if you're sick. It zooms in, it does cycles, and it zooms. And at a certain point, you have so much inside of you, you become a Buddhist or maybe a Christian or a Muslim, whatever your religion is. But like, everything is connected. Because if you zoom in far enough, you'll find it. It's not made for that. They fact check it. Trump has never said it. DeSantis has never said it. Abbott's never said it. No one said it. So how are they helping you? They're not. They're funding these people. Contract tracing. And here's the big shocker. Do you guys remember, and I hope that you do you remember when I was making a big stink in 2019 before the pandemic, trying to tell people that not just left-wingers were shutting down free speech? Yes, Google sucks. Facebook censors too much. They're all Amazon. Liberal media, we could talk about it yes, they're the worst at censorship, no doubt. But do you guys remember when I was trying to tell you that Republicans were passing speech laws? Ron DeSantis passed an anti-Semitism school bill. Trump passed an anti-Semitism executive order, making it illegal to boycott Israeli products and protest them on college campuses. As PragerU and Charlie Kirk are like their little PR teams saying, no safe spaces. We have a new movie out. What's the point of your movie if you're creating new safe spaces and you're lying about free speech? I told everybody they were lying, but they didn't want to hear that because they like Charlie Kirk and Trump and Ben Shapiro, which is fine, but they were lying and they still are, and I'm right and I don't care. But in general, they were passing speech laws to make it harder for you to criticize Israel. And I tried to say this not because I hate Israel. I actually love Israelis, and I have a lot of Jewish friends in America that aren't even from Israel, but in general, or they don't live there. But in general, it's not hateful to tell you the truth about free speech. And the truth is, the CARES Act doesn't mean they care about you. Oh, bipartisan, Pelosi and McConnell passed the CARES Act. Is that what it says in the CARES Act? We care about you. One line. No, it says trillions of dollars are going to be, reappropriated. Trillions. That's what the CARES Act was. It was a huge thing that you'll never read in your life, and you have no idea, and I have no idea where all the money went. I have a good idea, but I've never read the whole thing, and you're never going to read the whole thing. So that's what the CARES Act is. What's the anti-Semitism bill that DeSantis passed? What's the anti-Semitism executive order that Trump passed? What's going on in Texas now with Governor Abbott trying to attack a Christian social media company in Gab and call them anti-Semitic. Do you know what's going on? Because I know what's going on, because I actually read Ron DeSantis's bill and I read Trump's executive order, and it's anti-constitutional, it's anti-First Amendment, and what you think is anti-Semitic is not what they're writing on the State Department website. They are providing cover for a foreign country, for billionaires like Susan Wojcicki, Mark Zuckerberg, and these people to never be questioned, to never be called out, to never talk about political and media influence and not be able to say it. And now what's happening in Israel, folks, besides a lot of great people? Oh, a two-tiered vaccine program. Oh my goodness. I never would have thought that, except for the fact that, okay, so they're the ones that are rolling out this two-tiered system where if you don't get the vaccination, you're not allowed to go places. And it just so happens Republicans who all funded mass testing without playing that clip and telling you that the founder of the PCR test literally didn't even think it's supposed to be used for that, but Trump has no problem using it. DeSantis has no problem using it. Abbott has no problem using it. None of the Republicans have any problem using it. And at bare minimum, all they do is lose ground. Well, let's celebrate this guy because he loses 50% ground. Well, this guy lost 70% ground. Here's a crazy idea. I don't know. Maybe I'm nuts and maybe it's harder said than done. How about we don't lose any ground? How about we find someone that instead of like losing, actually win something? Because winning isn't winning if you don't actually win anything. If 4 years of Trump ends up in socialism and a further left agenda than we've ever had in our life with literally almost nothing to show for it because the country's more locked down than it's ever been, you're not winning. So what I'm getting to is none of this stuff is random. And there's a reason that I tried to talk about it 2 and 3 years ago. I didn't know that there was going to be a two-tiered system in Israel, but I did know what they were really doing because I read the bill and it had nothing to do with protecting your Jewish friends and family members or you if you're Jewish, and had everything to do with protecting the establishment. Just like when Trump hired Alex Azar, it's a big pharma move. It's not a move for you. I mean, maybe he did a good job or something, but it's like Trump was just weaseling his way through all this crap and nobody was calling it out, because very few people saw it. And if someone like me saw it, I'm going to be honest with you. I said it before, but I'll say it again because probably more people are listening. I was censored by the right, not just the left. 2 people, including one person that I helped even get there, who then turned around and thanked me by censoring me and taking out something about Israel that I said wasn't hateful, wasn't nasty, wasn't anti-Semitic, was a historical fact that they didn't want to talk about because either their donors told them to shut up, or they were afraid of losing money and power in a group that doesn't want to talk about that. So they censored me. Thank you. I gave you a platform and then you turn around and censor me like the left. Oh yeah, you're really fighting the left. Whatever. And then another person who I tried to explain on a podcast about what was going on, how the right wing was selling out free speech. Don't you think all these people, the Turning Point USAs, the Daily Wires, the Blaze TVs, don't you think that they would care if a right winger was turning their back on free speech? Isn't that what they claim? Isn't that what they tell you when you guys watch their platforms, that they're like really concerned about losing free speech? How come when I bring to their attention that, first of all, they know, they're not stupid. When I do it, how come they cut my podcast? How come they censor my video and take out a part of what I said and just chop it back together and act like I never said it? You think it's random? No, that's the influence in the right wing. People like Sheldon Adelson, everybody talks about George Soros on the left wing. Look up Sheldon Adelson. He gave tens of millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, to the right wing for a pro-Israel agenda. And Trump gave his wife a Presidential Medal of Honor. And then they start pushing their foreign policy and domestic policy. And their domestic policy includes anti-First Amendment, anti-free speech legislation to stop you from saying honest things that will help your country and honest things that you should be allowed to say. And they're all doing it. Charlie Kirk, Shapiro, Trump, DeSantis, Blaze TV, all these little fraudulent, fake, conservative thought leaders who put on a cowboy hat and dupe you into think that they're actually doing something. They're just sucking up money. They're not conserving anything. They're conserving their power. They're conserving their power in a conservative structure that does what CPAC does, says freedom, 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 goes to Florida, goes to Orlando, and kicks out people at their event for not wearing a mask. That's what they do. Stuff like that. We're so free, we're going to go to a liberal city with a liberal corporation that's going to kick out Fleckas and DC Drano for not wearing a mask, because nothing says freedom like not even allowing freedom-fighting conservatives to be allowed at our event. Wow. Shock. That's what they're doing. So I don't say this to be hateful. I don't say this to be mean. I don't say this to point fingers. I'm just being honest. For 2 years now, I've realized once I brought something to their attention, they don't really care about free speech. They care about conserving their own power and saying things that their bosses and their donors like. Blame the left, do this. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, Facebook's terrible. But then it's like certain things like Tucker Carlson brought up, and this is totally separate, but, I like Jim Jordan, or I did. He's a strong voice in the conservative movement, right? He's fighting big tech. And then Tucker Carlson brings him on and says, Jim Jordan, how come you're getting money from Google? And he says, I just take money from anybody who pays me. I mean, I get money through YouTube, but Google doesn't fundraise for me. So that's a little weird, is it not? I mean, maybe they just like him, but why would Google like Jim Jordan if Jim Jordan's fighting Google? I don't know. This is a question that Tucker asked, and I wasn't really impressed with Jim Jordan's answer. But it's like, this is the type of stuff, it's like they're actors or something. It's like they're acting like they're fighting big tech, but they're passing speech laws against Americans. They're acting like they're fighting medical tyranny and a global agenda, but they're locking down America, dishing out trillions of dollars to anybody who wants it, funding mass tests, mass ventilators, mass vaccines, knowing damn well who runs these liberal companies, knowing damn well once they get the money and power, they're never going to give it back. They know this if I know this. So I'm just letting you know, I think a lot of people realize now, hopefully, I don't know. I'm not trying to be like a kid and say, I told you so, but I tried to explain this in 2019, not to be hateful, because if you don't have freedom of speech, you don't really have anything anymore. You're going to lose everything. You lose the First Amendment, they're going to come for the rest. And of course, they're coming for the Second Amendment now. And what's shocking to me, maybe I could find this clip real quick. I might as well end it with this. And I'm not doing it to pander. I legitimately think this is one of, let me see. This is one of my favorite clips from Noam Chomsky. The people on the right wing who've been brainwashed and conditioned or paid to call me an anti-Semite for trying to stand up for the First Amendment go directly against what even Noam Chomsky knew. Noam Chomsky is like an anarcho-communist, left-wing Jewish professor. He's not even right-wing at all. And he knew this 30 years ago. So how far is the right-wing fallen where a left-wing, far left-wing Jewish professor knows more about free speech than a right-wing conservative? And Obama somehow did less socialism than Trump did, because of the pandemic. You get what I'm saying? I'm not saying this to be edgy or call people out. It's not sustainable. What the mainstream conservatives are doing and covering up, it's not going to work. It's just not sustainable. This is Noam Chomsky on free speech, explaining to even call it, if you don't stand up for the most egregious speech you disagree with, then you're not going to get it for the things you do agree with. And the stuff that I'm talking about is not even hateful. I have the American right to say something crazy right now. I might lose, my platforms. And if you're Myers Leonard, you're going to lose your sponsors, but he's not going to go to jail, and that's the American way. It's like, I'm not defending what the guy says. I'm just saying, I don't believe that you should go to prison for it, or I don't believe there should be a law that does something to you in that sense. It should be up to the people in society. Noam Chomsky used to know this. How come Trump and DeSantis don't know this? They do know this, but the big money and the big power in politics supports the opposite. Let's take a listen.
I think that the state will have the right to determine historical truth and to punish people who deviate from it. I'm not willing to give the state that right, even if they happen to call it not gas chambers and the state. But I'm saying, if you believe in freedom of speech, if you believe in freedom of speech for abusing your own life. Goebbels was in favor of freedom of speech for abusing life. So was Stalin. If you're in favor of freedom of speech, that means you're in favor of freedom of speech precisely for views you despise.
See, they tried to guilt Noam Chomsky, who is Jewish. They tried to guilt him with a thing about the gas chambers, and they said, well, and he's like, I don't deny them, but he said, I have to defend that speech legally, because if I don't defend all speech, I don't get any speech. And you think it wasn't hard for him to do that as a Jewish man? He's not defending it, but he's like, Stalin believed in speech he agreed with. Goebbels, however you say it, agreed with speech he agreed with. And that's like the liberals and the fact checkers now. Fact check, I don't want you to say that. And the right wing, you're an anti-Semite. Even Noam Chomsky said that. Someone said I can't hear. I'll have to show you a different time. Maybe I'll put it on my YouTube. But in general, it's I'll retweet it right now on my Twitter. So if you go to my Twitter page, I just retweeted it. But it's great. It's Noam Chomsky being questioned by a bunch of kids at school, and he's like, "Listen, that's what free speech is about. Like, I'm not saying I agree with it as a Jewish guy, but I don't think there should be legal, jail consequences. In Germany, that's a jail sentence, literally. In America, it's not. Your life is pretty screwed if you say it, but as far as are you going to jail? No, and that's the point. So, long story short, in order to accomplish something right now, we got to get to the core of it. Thank you to Eugenio, and I will put those links up, for grilling Dr. Fauci in a way that I haven't seen anybody do with all the facts. You could tell he's heard RFK or Del Bigtree or some, one of these people, because he knew all these things. And it's not an anti-vaccine statement to ask questions about FDA approval and liability. It's just like a genuine question, but they don't want genuine questions. And the same industry that is involved in so much scandal, so many problems, from Purdue Pharmaceuticals to Johnson & Johnson to Pfizer. I mean, just look up any of these companies. It's not like they have a flawless track record. There's problems, just like there are in every industry. But this industry lobbies the most. They have a lot of power. And in my perspective, it's been a problem even before the lockdown, because so many people are on pills, so many people are obese. Something's going on with the health in this country. I'm not super impressed with it. Overall, it could be better, it could be worse. But in general, it's like now we've given these people crazy amounts of power. And before Eugenio, I haven't seen any person get to the core with it. And that includes Trump. That includes these conservative influencers. And I'll tell you what, at the core of it, there's a lot of people who've been messaging me and say, thank you so much, Anomaly. I agree with you. I've seen, people on Instagram really step up and start questioning it. I saw Don Jr. get ratioed by Trump supporters. That's great. That's what we need, folks. You don't have to be mean or hateful about it. You could like Don Jr., but if Don Jr. is on Twitter or on Instagram being like, oh, my dad, we don't deserve him because he did Operation Warp Speed, he deserves to get ratioed. That's standing your ground. Stand your ground against Trump the same way you would against Biden. No, that's not the coolest thing your dad did. That's far from it. You should feel like it's not. And that's what happened. So finally, people are standing up against the Trump family, even though they like them. It's like, no, it's not. If you talk about it, you deserve to get booed. Not just like, no, it's like, no, stop, dude. That's not cool. And until they get to the bottom of the testing and the tracing and all this stuff, it's just one big circus. So I do want to compliment. A lot of people have been stepping up. I've seen that. A lot of influencers know, but a lot of them don't. And I know, it's like an actor. I like an actor like this. Like, I don't even know his movies, but when I see that you're a good human being and you actually have something to contribute to humanity more than just entertainment, that makes me like you on a whole new level. And you have to understand, a lot of these influencers are like that. Like, for instance, I try to be entertaining. I try to be funny, but most people who watch me, hopefully people watch me because I'm funny, but people like the research I do. Like, I'm not just another clone. You're not seeing the same things you see all the time. And I do real deep investigation into certain things. So that's why people like my channel. A lot of these influencers, they're like actors, they're like right-wing actors. They just act like they're conservative. They go to as many events as they can get as much money and donor money. And I'm not knocking, get your money, hustle, as the Hoteps would call it, grifting. Do your grift. The Grifty Awards. I'm looking forward to the new ones. Maybe I'll get one. But in general, it's like there's no shame in doing well. There's no shame in earning money. But a lot of these people, to me, I'm like, are you an actor, or are you? Do you mean what you say? Or is it just? Are you reading a script? Are you just saying things that everyone thinks? But then when like push comes to shove, you're taking the wrong stance on so many issues, and that happened, I think, over the last year. So that's my thoughts. I'll answer a few questions, and then I'm going to get to some other stuff. I got a few things to do today, but t.me/StreamYourChat's my Telegram. I read one comment. Someone said, then just run for office if you care so much. Here's the thing, though. Media controls the minds of the masses. Politics is not everything. So in my opinion, you have Trump, you have Biden, you have DeSantis. It's clear some of them are really good at certain things and do way better than Democrats. Some of them fall short at a certain point. But it's going to take more than politics, and media controls the minds of the masses. Why was this shutdown so easy? Because so many people are so controllable. So this idea that if I don't run for office, I'm not really doing anything is a false premise. I think media and education is so much more. If I can influence 10 million people a week and politicians are watching me, athletes follow me every single day. I have some of the most high profile athletes following what I'm doing. You don't think that has an impact? So there's a lot more I could do, but I don't want to run for office. And I think it's like a false premise. It's like, shut up or run for office. It's like, no, conservatives need to, and libertarian, whatever you want to call it, need to make some sort of push in culture, in media, in education, in all this stuff. And that's lacking. It's like you can have as many Trumps and John McCain's and Mitt Romney's and DeSantis's as possible. But if so many people are still controlled by certain narratives, then it's not going to matter. Eventually, they're going to lose office or they're going to be overruled like they are today. It's like DeSantis is doing a better job than Newsom, but CPAC, which is a conservative outlet, still can't host a venue without a mask mandate. You get what I'm saying? Like that's the minds of the masses. So I don't, there's always more I could do. I'm open to criticism, but I don't believe like you have to run for office or you're not doing anything. I don't want to run for office. I don't think it's that important. I think people need to put their foot down. And too many people are idolizing or waiting for politicians, whether it's Trump or Biden. If enough people knew what was going on and just, you don't even have to be anything. Just know it. Like Eugenio, that is a perfect example. He didn't even really, who knows what he wants to do? Maybe he wants to get the vaccine. Maybe he doesn't, but he was educated enough to hold his ground, stand firm, and ask a few questions. That's all it takes. And all this goes away so quickly. If everyone did what he did without even saying their political or medical stance, this all would have been over in June or April or May, or at least by now. So I think it's that simple. But I don't know, maybe that's more complicated than I think. I'll read a few and then I'm going to roll out. Someone said Wendy Williams is a better American than Donald Trump. It's funny you said that because I was thinking something so similar in my head the other day, and I was like, yo, if I tweet this, people are going to get ticked off. But yeah, the way she stood her ground with Dr. Oz was great. Honestly, there's probably so many things that Wendy Williams could say that would piss me off and I wouldn't agree with politically or socially, but I do respect her for standing her ground almost more than Trump. I mean, the fact that he's in the crunch time for humanity, taking the wrong stance on almost everything besides like immigration and a few basic like trade deals that don't even matter anymore because no one's trading, or at least we're not allowed to have free trade or free market in this country. Yeah, you almost do respect her more than him. I agree. And I know people don't want to hear that, but it's like, dude, he's like sitting behind a computer just like, I gave you this shot. Operation Warp Speed is not hard to do, guys. It's not like he's in the lab. It's not doing that. You think Biden wouldn't have done that? Of course. This is their dream, guys. You think Biden's not going to back Bill Gates back companies? You think Biden's not going to back Pfizer? Oh, Trump's such a rebel by giving all this money to the pharma industry. Whoa. And you got people like Scott Presler just like, oh, thank you so much, Donald Trump. You're the best. It's like, all right, Scott, I get it. You register voters. It's really great. You're on a life journey, but it's like, do you have a individual thought of your own? Or are you just like licking the dirt off his shoe? It's like, it's really not that great. It's not, even if I agreed with Operation Warp Speed and I wanted the products, I still wouldn't be blown away. Even if I was like, I wouldn't be like, oh, wow, like Trump did wow, man, Obama really wouldn't even know how to sign that paper. He'd be like, where is it? You think Obama's not signing money to Pfizer? You think Biden's not going to do that? You think Hillary wouldn't have done that? You think John McCain wasn't going to do that? This is not some sort of like, ending the Syrian war accomplishment for Trump. This is like, he's like, it doesn't even make sense that he's harping on this so much. It's like, even if I agreed with it, it's not an impressive accomplishment, but whatever. And nobody that hates you is going to give you credit for it anyway. You're only turning off like half of your base, but whatever. Magical Girl, thank you so much. Claudia, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. Thank you on YouTube too. Someone said, I live in Florida. Many people down here hate DeSantis. He didn't win in much in 2018 either. Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of people like him. I think conservatives like him, but yeah, I don't know. Liberals probably don't like him. They probably hate him. It's like the Trump thing. It's like a love-hate relationship. If you do anything impressive or a standout, you're going to be hated and loved by a certain percentage of the population. To me, that's why the culture war is so important, because, okay, with DeSantis, half the state loves him and they're conservative, half the state hates him. This is not sustainable. And people fight so much that when liberals question DeSantis, they never make any sense. Like, there's a few things I don't agree with DeSantis on. I will never hear it on liberal media because they don't talk about anything interesting or important. They're so sneaky and dishonest. You know, it's like Fauci, and I don't know. It's like there needs to be questioning of right wing, but none of the left wing is questioning the right properly. They're just like hallucinating insanity and freaking out over like the dumbest stuff. And everything the left hates Trump for are things he actually did right. It's like they're in opposite worlds. So, you know, it's not sustainable. Even with DeSantis or Trump or somebody better, there needs to be like a mindset shift. And there has been, but that's where I'm just like, we don't want to go back. We made so much progress. I think Trump made so much progress. I think the political world got infused with so much more realness, you know, above everything. You could talk about policy. You could talk about all this stuff. I think one of the most important things Trump did, besides call out the media, he brought something real to politics. Like, there's a pulse. Even when I don't agree with him, I think he got faker last year. The pandemic turned him into like a phony. He started just repeating the same lines like Bernie Sanders. But before that, he was like a real person. Like, you're fake. He was just saying things that were like, oh, wow, that actually makes sense for anybody. So we need to take that path of realness. We can't get derailed and become like a fake movement again. You know, there was so much progress that was made over the last couple of years. We want to just build on that and get to the point where like most people aren't playing along. And I think it's a good time to do that. I think Biden is wildly unpopular. I think my video yesterday got more views than his video did on certain platforms, maybe not on everything, where it's like, I don't think people like Joe Biden. So, you know, we could use this opportunity to like send the energy in the right direction, or we could just like, we'll see what happens. I'm going to see M. Gabriella said, I'm getting a lot of requests from a lot of people who have relatives that have died after getting the Moderna. WTF. Well, here's the thing. I don't want to talk about this because I don't have proof of it. So I don't know if you do or not. I'm not saying anything. I'm not doing this to be sneaky. I'm just saying, like, I know how heavily censored this type of stuff is. So I've seen some comments about it. Anyone can make an account and say, I know people who know people or something. If you want to look at the more official stuff, I think it's called VAERS.com. I think it's on the CDC website. So if you want to look into the reported deaths and injuries and stuff, just go through there, because I don't want to, I don't want to read someone else's. I appreciate the super chat, but I don't want to act like I'm 100% certain about something that someone texted me, because I'm not. I can only speak on stuff that I know, stuff that's in VAERS, or stuff that I know from people that I literally know. But yeah, I don't know how common it is. I don't know the percentages. And if, I don't know that they want people to know the percentages. And if they were really bad, I don't know how easy that access information would be. So I'm very skeptical, but yeah, I don't want to like start just reading off stuff and get myself in trouble. All right, let me try to read one on Facebook. I'm going to see this real quick. Someone said, Trump lost my support when he supported a country shut down masks and vaccines. Conservatives get really ticked when I say that. No, it's crazy how mad people get. I could play a clip real quick. I'll try to say this nicely so people can hear it without getting mad at me. But, one of the biggest deceptions was Trump not only was part of the lockdown. People say, oh, federalism. I'm talking about leadership. Obviously, I can point to things that Trump signed. When you sign mass testing, when you sign mass funding, when you sign Operation Warp Speed, when you instead of financially, having a battle, with governors and you financially incentivize them to do this stuff. Trump never was fighting the lockdown, but more importantly, as a leader, his words mean something as well, and his leadership means something. And he did a big dupe. And every time I say this, it's weird because I get a lot of retweets. And when I say this, it's like nobody wants to hear it. But he convinced people in 2 years that Sweden, before the lockdown, what was the problem with Sweden, folks? Sweden was too socialist, right? Sweden's too liberal. They're too not free. After, Sweden decided not to lock down because they stood by their constitution. Trump didn't. Trump didn't even try to. Trump lied. But anyway, they stood by their constitution, said, we don't think we can allow mask mandates and shutdowns, so we're not going to do it. So Sweden didn't do mask mandates and lockdowns. And Trump was lying about it the whole time. So was Jack. And so was James Woods. I'm not knocking them. So was Scott Adams. He was wrong about almost everything. But in general, they were pushing out this propaganda saying Sweden's so bad, trying to brainwash people into thinking if you have freedom and you don't have mask mandates and you don't have lockdowns, that everyone's going to die. But the data never said that. I think at the worst point, Sweden was like nowhere further than 2 times as much deaths per capita than America. And slowly over time, America overtook it. So Sweden was actually doing better before they went with the lockdown nonsense and gave in. So there was no data that said Sweden was doing 10 times more and millions of people would have died. Trump was lying through his teeth. He was pushing the Fauci and Bill Gates model behind his head, saying that if I don't lock down, millions of people were going to die. And then he duped conservatives into shilling for communism and socialism. Trump said, if we would have locked down like Sweden, people would have died. So what's he telling you? If we side with freedom, that people are going to die. I'll play the clip. I played it before, but here I have it right here. This is him saying Brazil and Sweden are bad, not because there's too much socialism, because there's too much freedom. They have too much freedom, too much herd immunity, and I saved millions of lives with my lockdown. Listen.
What's wrong with having to close it down? We saved millions of lives. A lot of people say we should have gone herd. Let's go herd. Ask them, how are they doing in Brazil? He's a great friend of mine. Not good. You heard about Sweden, right? 2 months. Ask them how they doing in Sweden. We saved millions of lives.
So he said, I'm going to look up the data real quick right now, but he said, they told me to go herd immunity. And what that means is freedom. It means not locking down. He's coding his words for, they told me to keep freedom. And it's so bad. It's so bad in Brazil. It's so bad. I saved millions of lives with my lockdown. All right, let's look at the data now. And in general, even then, even when it was worse, it was never as bad. And I pointed that out in April. People were like, well, didn't you know? I'm like, yeah, we all got fooled about something, but I was crunching these numbers like almost a year ago now. America's number 11 in the world right now in deaths per capita. Let's see where Sweden is. Oh, Sweden's 24th and Brazil's 25th. So they're actually doing better than America in deaths per capita. Sweden and Brazil are doing better than America in deaths per capita. And they did less lockdown measures, less mask mandates. So that's what Trump was, a vaccine salesman, a Bill Gates Moderna salesman, and a lockdown salesman. And he's never apologized. He just keeps lying, and people don't want to hear it. So what does it mean to be conservative if you can't conserve the Constitution, you can't conserve the country, you can't conserve the House or the Senate, you can't conserve the presidency, you can't conserve the First Amendment, and you certainly can't conserve the country against medical tyranny when you have a leader who's championing it and bragging about it? So I don't know. People don't want to hear this stuff. Someone said Trump is not important. He is important. That's not true. He's very important. He was the last president, extremely important, and he's one of the most, if not the most influential people on the planet for both sides. He's absolutely important. What are you talking about? If 100 million people in America look at him as a leader and he leads them in the direction of tyranny and never apologizes for it, it's kind of a big deal. I know you don't want to hear that, but it's like we'll end the same way we started. It's the same thing as like concern shaming me. Like I don't want to. Instead of saying I don't want to hear that because I like Trump or something, it's like, oh, it's not important. It's like, no, it is important. And then it's like, oh, I'm worried about you. You don't seem okay. If you really think that, there's a way to do it. Like I said, the guy who said something about my back, he's like, I think you have this neck disorder. Was I mad at him? No, I was actually grateful that he said something because he actually cares about me. Or, why else would he tell me that if it wasn't it. So there's a difference between actually helping me and be like, hey, I think something's wrong with your neck. You should try this, versus like, you need to go to bed. You're tired. You're tired of listening to me. So just click the X button. But it's the same thing. Like, that's not important. Just move on. It's like, you could click the X. I don't know. There's a lot of people I don't like. I just click the X. Or at least I just say, I don't agree with you. I think you're lying about this. Here's why I think you're lying about this. I don't say, you're tired. X, you're tired. Go to bed. Go to bed. Don Lemon, you're not getting enough sleep. Don Lemon, the problem with Don Lemon is not that he's not getting enough sleep. He's just a liar. It's not like I'm concerned about Don Lemon. I'm like, man, I don't think Don Lemon works out enough. I think he's eating fast food too much. Like, no, I just don't like Don Lemon. I have more respect for people who just say, Don Lemon, you need to go to bed and take more naps. It's like, just stop. Like, you're not fooling. It's like this passive aggressive weirdo thing where it's like, man, you're really sick. I'm like, no, I'm good. I feel great. What are you talking about? I mean, you don't have to like what I'm saying, but just say that. And then say why. But people just don't want to hear it. I find it quite funny. But I got to take off soon. Let's get one more. Maybe from Facebook. Thank you to guys. We still have over 2,400 people here. We had like 4,000. And someone said, what should Trump have done? We'll end on this. I don't want to sound like a broken record for people who watch me all year, but I'm not Trump, and I've never claimed to be. I've always shown mercy. I've always shown compassion for the position he's in. But your job and my job as an American citizen, or at least I think my job is not to make excuses for tyranny. So when Trump is doing the right thing and the media is doing the wrong thing, my job is to stand against it, in my opinion, especially when I do news analysis. So I do. And then vice versa, when Trump becomes a liar and a tyrant, my job is not to follow him and worship him like an idol. That, for a lot of Christians, people have worshiped Trump more than Jesus. That's not Christian. I'm not saying you can't like Trump and have, compassion for him, but it's like people think that he can't be questioned, like he's some sort of God. So what should he have done? I'll just say what we should have done, because I don't want to overstate it. We should have, and the conservative movement should have, stood for what they pretend to stand for. It's really that simple. It's like, if you believe in the First Amendment and your president is involved in telling you to shut down churches, you should have said something then. You should have been concerned then. You would have been concerned if Biden was president. You would have been concerned if Obama was president. So the fact that Trump was the president and nobody wanted to talk about his role in it just shows me that either he messed up or he's just a Trojan horse to do exactly that. Make sure conservatives are nice and calm and trusting the plan when everything goes awry or everything goes sour. What could he have done? What should he have done? I'm not going to say what he should have done, but what could he have done to not be such a tyrant? He could have not passed speech laws. He could have fought big tech. He could have done literally anything besides passing speech laws. But that was his priority in 2019. And I'll tell you why I don't talk about election fraud is because it's not because I don't care about a fair election. In order to get a fair election, mass mail-in ballots is a bad idea. Not having voter ID is a bad idea. This is obvious, but I'm not going to run circles around Trojan horse Trump because he's the reason that this all happened. He didn't fight. If he would have stood for me in the Constitution and said, listen, this is unconstitutional, this is bad, or at least at one point tried to do that, he never did that. He gave money and power and control to everybody who was going to screw us over. He never apologized, and he never opened up after the 15 days. He extended the lockdown orders past Easter, and as the president of the United States, that matters, especially when the Republican states follow your lead. And he was constantly critical of Georgia, Sweden, and Brazil for not locking down. He's a liar. So what could he have done? Stood for the Constitution, not passed speech laws, did something about big tech. I told people, for people who watch this channel, 2 years ago, that if Trump loses, this was before the pandemic, I said the only way Trump is going to lose, I didn't think about the pandemic, that's obvious, but he doesn't understand how technology works. He kept saying, I'm going to fight big tech, I'm going to fight big tech. But bro, you barely won, and I'm talking about in certain areas, like electoral wise, he won, but it's like in certain areas, he didn't win by that many votes, and that could have swayed the electorate. So all his biggest supporters got taken out pre-2018, including Alex Jones, who, regardless of what you think of him, gets billions of views and promotes Trump. So without the biggest person on YouTube or one of them saying your name, that's going to matter in the public sphere. So he did nothing about all the supporters getting wiped out. And then one thing that they did with technology was they got everybody to register. When I was younger, nobody told me to register. Nobody got me to register. And if they did, I wasn't paying attention. What they did from 2016 to 2020 is used Facebook, Google, Instagram, Snapchat, all of these applications that have people 18 through 30, which are going to vote way more blue, register, basically almost forcing them to register, if not bombarding them with it 1,000 times, where statistically they're going to pick up that many people. And it's all a numbers game that Trump never understood. And he never tried to fight. He never tried to take on big tech. He was passing speech laws that really actually benefit the CEOs of big tech and stop you from questioning their power. That's what he did. So how am I going to talk about election fraud when I can't talk about the person who doesn't understand how technology works? If we have 50 million new kids who register because big tech basically forced them to register, and then they lock the country down, Trump included, Trump actually pressured Georgia to not open. He tried to get Georgia to stay locked down. And the irony was Georgia ended up being a state that cost him the election when he was the one that locked it down. So he never stood up for me with big tech. He never took them on. He never understood how data works. They have all your data. They could probably tell you what you want to eat for dinner today because they have all your information. And with that information, they used all their data possible to register as many Democrats as possible. So that plus mass mail-in ballots that Trump himself is responsible for because he locked down the country and then he loses the election. Yeah, you might freaking lose, bro, if you don't do anything right for the last 4 years. So I'm not going to get banned on social media acting like my pillow guy, hashtag 45, 66% off, pray 45, hope 45, code Q, and you get my crappy pillows for $40 or whatever. Or maybe they're fantastic. I have no idea. And maybe they're cheaper, but in general, I'm not going to run in circles saying a bunch of, I think I have this thing with the thing. It's like, yeah, I know exactly what they did, but the Republican Party and Trump incentivized it, authorized it, and basically did literally nothing because they're selfish, guys. Trump is selfish. The Republicans are selfish. You think they gave a crap about Alex Jones? No, but Alex Jones helped him. I don't even like Alex Jones that much anymore, but he helped Trump win the election. So what do? You don't think billions of views are going to help Trump? Billions of views aren't going to help Trump win the election? Of course they did. Of course they are. So he gets wiped away. Milo gets wiped away. All his biggest supporters that help him get election and make progress in culture got taken away. And Trump and the Republicans didn't give a crap because they don't care about you. And then in 2020, when did they start caring? When did Trump start talking about Section 230, which, by the way, after more research, is not the way to fight big tech. It's like a kind of sloppy way that would probably make it worse. But anyway, what does Trump then do? Or when did he start stepping up? When did Republicans start stepping up? When they got censored. They got censored. GOP, judicial, whatever got censored. And then they started freaking out. But it's too late. It's 2020, 5 months into a pandemic that you guys funded out all the mass testing, all the ventilators, all the vaccines for. And now you're concerned about Section 230? They only cared because it affected them. And I'm not saying that like as a liberal, like, oh, Trump is this and that. No, he did a lot. But at the same time, he never seemed to care about things that matter. So you have the most powerful companies on the planet that literally every voter and every potential voter is registered for. They're using their data to pop up 50 million times on all your kids' apps. Vote, 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 vote. They lock them inside. You lock them inside. You sign off on the locking them inside, and then they do mass mail-in ballots because you agreed with them and you gave them all the money and resources and power to do so. And now you're going to act shocked, run people in circles for 3 months. And then the finale of it was tell people to go to an event that ended up being a honeypot trap to investigate as many Trump supporters as possible and label them terrorists, losing more of your rights as if he didn't lose enough rights during 2020. Trump didn't lose enough of our rights during 2020. Now he gets us set up at the Capitol to label us terrorists. So now they could probably spy on everybody and investigate everyone further. I'm supposed to lose my platform saying stupid crap like Mike Lindell. No offense, but it's like he doesn't have 100% irreversible truth. He just doesn't. He has a pretty decent argument that he's recycling and selling as many pillows as possible to conservatives who probably don't need any more pillows because they already bought 6 from him. And he's paying all the conservative influencers, are doing it and probably getting a cut of it. So it's like, I'm not knocking it. Get his money. I know he got banned from the left, but what they're doing is like a clown show. It's like, they're not solving anything. They're not getting to the core of why it happened. They're not getting to the core. If you want to really blow this thing out of the water, you need to have video proof and evidence that it happened, not just a data analyst who says that I think it's pretty improbable. Yeah, I think it's pretty improbable too. I watched the election and I thought it was over too. I think it's pretty damn improbable that there's a water leak in the middle of a Georgian election and all of a sudden this happens at 3 a.m. at night. I think it's improbable too. But me saying it's improbable and you saying it's improbable isn't going to do anything. And if you have proof and evidence and video footage and literal technical footage where you have the actual computers and can prove it, yeah, you have 100% proof. But if you just have a data analyst who just stands there and says what I say in more complex words, that's not 100% proof. That's just a way to sell pillows to conservatives and run them in circles for 5 months so they never talk about the lockdowns and medical tyranny, which is the root of every single thing that they're complaining about. And now what are most Trump supporters doing? Anomaly, election. What did they do before the election? Who remembers my channel in May and June? Election. Just wait till the election. What did they tell me in 2019 when I tried to tell two really big, I won't name their names, but conservative influencers that the right wing wasn't standing up for free speech, and I wanted to tell their platforms? They said, election, don't say it. Wait till the election. Now there is no election because you guys don't stand up for freedom. So there's not going to be a fair election. So election, they told me in 2019. They told me in 2020, just wait till the election. After the election, they said, wait till the election's over. They said, wait till the 6th, wait till the 20th. And now they just keep saying election. It's like they programmed or brainwashed right-wingers to not care about the elephant in the room, the lockdown and the Constitution. If you don't have a Constitution and you have a lockdown country, you don't have free market, you're not fighting socialism, and it doesn't even at a certain point matter who wins because Trump wasn't able to stop them either. So, I mean, he could have done more with immigration, but what was he? He wasn't standing up to the pharmacy industry. I mean, with insulin, I mean, that's cool, and I appreciate that. And gas prices, certain things matter. Honestly, I vote Republican down ticket because they are better than Democrats. But it's like, what? They're just conserving just enough to be like a higher level slave on the playing field. It's like, well, I can't go here. I can't go here. It's still this, but I mean, gas is cheaper. It's like, I appreciate it. I'll still vote for these losers, but in general, it's like they're just running people in circles. And now people are messaging me like, the number one issue is the election. I'm like, the number one issue is the lockdown and medical tyranny and the fact that the right wing's not standing up for the Constitution. Because if you don't have the Constitution, you have a lockdown and you have mass mail-in ballots and you have a Republican Party that sits on their hands for 4 years with big tech when they don't understand the science behind what can happen. Robert Epstein, not Jeffrey, Robert, good guy, talked about this as a data analyst saying, I think they could sway tens of millions of votes or millions of votes. It's like, yeah, for sure. So do I think there was foul play in the election? For sure, but also being like a person that understands math and technology, if you can get 10 million more in certain areas, you don't even need 10 million. You just need 20,000 people through 18 through 30 to register and vote. You can sway you could sway Wisconsin. I'm not even talking about ballots. Obviously, that's suspect. More ballots, but I'm just talking about data. I never voted when I was younger, but most kids probably voted because they were vote. I never had a thing in my hand that I spent 12 hours a day on that was telling me Snapchat, vote, Instagram, vote, register, click this. They did that for 4 years. And I told people just like they're going to get enough sales. It's like having an email list. If you have an email list of 100,000 people, you're going to make a certain amount of sales. If your email list isn't an email list, it's the information. I have your name, your address, what you like, what you wear. I have all your information like Facebook, Google, and YouTube. And instead of 100,000 people, it's the entire country. They have everything on everyone. And they're constantly using their leverage and data to get Democrats to vote and to register. Yeah, it's not going to be that hard to beat Trump, and it's not going to be that hard to beat Republicans in the next election. That's why I tried to tell people since 2016, you have to do something about big tech. You have to. They didn't, and this is what we get. So the point I'm getting to, without dragging on too much, is That's why I don't run in circles talking about the election, because once again, that's just like a leaf thing that everyone's going to bat at but not do anything about. If you want to do something about the election, you have to find irreversible evidence, not put out a documentary called Irreversible Evidence and not have irreversible evidence and every guest on like, so that's 100% sure. It's like, no, it's not 100. You don't know what 100% means, dude. No, it's not 100. Maybe you're 80, maybe you're, but not 100%. Use real language. In general, that's the move forward. The God Pill with the $100 super chat, he said, "Bruh and peeps, seriously use this money for AMC and GME. We have battled the last 2 months with billions of dollars and millions of people join the movement anomaly. We need you, brother." I appreciate the super chat, but I have to be honest. I'm probably not going to use the money to buy AMC and GME. There's a smile on my face, the God Pill, when I see it go way up in the air. I definitely smile. I'm happy for you guys who are invested in it, but to me, I don't know. It's so high. What is it at right now? Here, let me look before I leave. What is it? GME? It's already at like, what is that? 264. You want me to jump in a stock that's at 264? I'm not going to do it, but I mean, I'm sure other people will. I'm not trying to knock the movement. I hope it goes up to 400, but I don't know. It's not my scene right now, but I wish you guys some luck. All right. I appreciate you guys. God bless you. God bless your family. God bless America, and God bless the world. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I did. And, check out Eugenio. His name is in the title. If you look him up on Instagram, check it out. Leave a nice comment and really try to give him, like a thumbs up or something nice. You don't have to take a jab at Fauci. I mean, you can do what you want, but like, just say like, "Hey, thank you so much for giving a good interview." Because I love to reward people for doing good things. And I keep screwing up his name. I apologize. Let me look real quick. Eugenio Derbez. I think we need to promote things we like and not just hate things we don't like. So, give them a thumbs up, leave them a nice comment on Instagram, check out the Fauci video, and hopefully we have more of this. I think, it's very promising to see something like that. Hopefully nothing happens to my page or anything. I know they don't like people using their brains and stuff, but either way, we'll figure it out moving on. Thank you for the stars. Thank you for the super chats. t.me/DreamRareChat, or search Dream Rare Chat, all different words, or just Dream Rare Chat, one word probably, on Telegram. I like it because I could do a straight shot. And if you want to catch the beginning of the live stream, I tell people before I go live every time now on Facebook and YouTube. Thank you guys. Have a good day. And hopefully you enjoyed that. Let's see. End.